You know that deep, unsettling feeling about existence itself? We call it existential dread. But what if it's not just one big, murky feeling? Today, we're going to break down dread into 5 distinct phases, each with its own unique flavor of angst.
Have you ever had that feeling? A deep, kind of unsettling anxiety, but you can't quite put your finger on why? It's a super common experience, and that's because that feeling, it often isn't just one thing.
You see, dread isn't some single weapon aimed at our peace of mind. It's more like an entire armory. And today, we're going to inspect 5 of its most potent forms, each with its own face and its own voice. Okay, so first up, let's meet the hammer. Think of him as the ultimate man of action. He craves a clear purpose, right? A grand story to be a part of. But when he looks at the world, all he finds is this deep, frustrating emptiness.
The core of the hammer's dread really just boils down to a single, powerful word: pointlessness. He's out there searching for a story, for a reason, for a clear direction, but the world just isn't giving him one.
He just puts it perfectly here, doesn't he? It's this frustration that comes from feeling trapped in a story that makes no sense. A story that swings between serious and funny with no single driving purpose. For the hammer, there's just no clear goal, no grand adventure to sign up for.
So at the end of the day, the hammer's dread is born from this feeling that there's no coherent plot. He's built for action, but he's in a world he sees as totally random and without any real intent, which leaves him thinking his whole existence is just pointless.
Next up, we meet the assassin. And look, if the hammer's dread is all about the world outside, the assassin's is all about the world within. It's a completely different kind of anxiety, and it's rooted in the very nature of the self.
So if the hammer's big word was pointlessness, then the assassin's is hollowness. He feels that the self, the ego, the very identity we all build, is fundamentally empty.
He describes himself as a chameleon, someone who takes on a ton of different forms. But he believes all these forms, these statues of our ego, as he calls them, are just hollow shells. We invent them, he thinks, out of some strange need, but there's no real substance behind any of them.
So for the assassin, dread is this fear of a shattered, unstable self. It's the anxiety that every single persona he puts on is ultimately meaningless. And even worse, he sees time itself, what he calls chronos, as this unstoppable force just coming to completely annihilate this already hollow identity.
All right, our next form of dread is all about futility. You know that feeling? That no matter what you do, your actions are ultimately useless. We're going to see this through the eyes of 3 different warriors, each one watching for a battle they feel they just can't win.
This right here is the futility of action. It's that awful, sinking realization that no matter how skilled or prepared you are, you're facing forces so chaotic or so massive that your efforts are just a tiny drop in a huge ocean. Our first warrior, Knight B, feels this on a massive systemic level. He looks at the human brain, our entire nervous system, and sees this incredible biological machine, and he's like, adapted for what? He feels it's all just pointless preparation for a universe governed only by chaos. All that evolution is ultimately futile.
Then you have the medieval knight. His dread is way more immediate, more boots on the ground. He's a warrior, armed and ready for battle, but he finds himself in a world with no clear enemies. There are no banners to fight for, no obvious sides to take. His whole purpose is to fight, but the world just refuses to give him a worthy war.
And finally, we've got Archer 1. His dread is all about scale. He knows his own skill. He knows his bow can take down one enemy, maybe a few, but he is terrified by the overwhelming power of an entire army, a system, a fate that was established before he was even an atom. Against that, he feels his individual power is microscopic and pretty much meaningless. So, you see, we've got 2 different scales of futility playing out here. On one side, you've got Knight B's systemic dread, the sense that our very biology is pointless. And on the other, you have Archer 1's individual dread, the feeling that my personal skills are just no match for the sheer scale of the world. So there we have it. 5 distinct voices, 5 different faces of dread. Let's step back and take a look at the full armory of angst we've just explored. And here it is, all laid out. The hammer dreads pointlessness because there's no narrative. The assassin dreads the hollowness of his own unstable self. Knight B feels the systematic futility of our very biology. The medieval knight is lost in a directionless conflict.
and Archer 1 is just crushed by overwhelming scale. 5 personas, 5 very different sources of dread.
And it's so important to remember this. These aren't just characters in some abstract thought experiment. They are archetypes. They give a clear voice and a distinct shape to the complex fears of existence that can be so hard to put into words.
And that brings us to the final question, really. As you listen to these 5 voices, did one of them resonate more than the others? In this complex armory of anxiety, which face of dread feels most familiar to you?